Hi, I'm Michelle. Not a new face, but I should be a familiar face. I'm trying this again. This is my first episode of my podcast, Let's Circle Back. I'm really glad you're here. This podcast is a space for slowing down, paying attention, and reconnecting with the parts of ourselves we often rush past. In my work as a mental health therapist, I often see how people carry questions, emotions, and unfinished conversations that deserve more care than they usually get. This is not a podcast for therapy, okay? Let's circle back is where we return to those moments, the ones that need a second look, a deeper breath, or a more compassionate perspective. Each episode, we will explore themes that shape our emotional lives. We want to move into healing or deepening our healing journey, navigating stress and burnout, strengthening relationships, healing from what hurt us, again, touching those wounds, figuring out what the pain and what the wound is. There's a difference. Building resilience, trusting your inner voice, and making sense of the experience that stay with us. Good experience, bad experience. Where I am in my life now is dating or trying to date, and some of those are quite funny, hurtful, embarrassing, but we get to share all of that here on the podcast. Okay. Along the way, you'll also hear conversation with people whose stories and expertise can expand our understanding. I'll be sitting down with published authors. My first one is Elizabeth, who's a great friend, great author. She has her first book out, and we'll be dealing with some things out of that book as well as getting to know her in a personal way. There'll be thought leaders and everyday people with meaningful experience to share. These interviews will bring fresh perspectives, practical insights, and real life narratives that help us circle back in deeper, more connected ways. Some episodes will be video conversations like this one. Others will be audio only reflections, short grounding moments you can listen to on a walk, during your commute, or whenever you need a reset. My hope is that when you listen, you feel supported, understood, and encouraged to approach your life with more clarity and self-kindness. This isn't about perfection. It's about pausing long enough to notice what's happening inside you and giving yourself permission to grow. You can expect honesty, warmth, and practical insight. You can expect conversations that feel human and grounded, and you can expect me and my guests to show up authentically with curiosity and care. Thank you for being here for my first episode. I'm excited to build a space with you. So let's get started. Let's circle back together. All right. Welcome to Let's Circle Back podcast. I am here with a great friend, and friend is not the word. She is my sister in all the ways, except for blood, but she's one of those. She's a great person and has the biggest, greatest brain of anyone that I know so far. And speaking on trauma, therapy, life experiences, and it's just one of the greatest. So I have purchased her first book. I have read it. I have read it, and I have
Mhm,
read it. And I
mhm,
think it's something we all need to read,
mhm.
soak in. And the purpose of this episode, one of the many, with Elizabeth Bouvier, is born in Providence. She will give you all her information to reach her, see her, seek
Mhm,
her out if you need to, if you need to. But
mhm,
we are creating this podcast, this series, to talk about trauma, the impact of trauma, and how to get you on a path of healing.
mhm,
So there will be some questions
mhm.
and some answers, and hopefully a thorough insight to her brain and her heart.
Mm.
All right,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, do you want to introduce yourself, or was that good?
Yeah,
Anything
that
you
was
would like to
excellent.
do?
Great. I yeah, so I am
I am Elizabeth, and I am a licensed professional counselor,
Mhm.
um, and now published author, as well as a national trainer, and speaker and artist. Um, and I'm very grateful that you are having me here to talk about the book.
Yes.
So, mhm.
Okay. Great. I'm reading my questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go for it. Yeah.
All right. Um, so we're going to ask questions for the audience to experience the book as a framework for understanding trauma and
Hmm.
healing.
Hmm.
I want to give you room to tell the stories that make the book compelling.
Mm.
Okay. For us, this episode is understanding trauma, recognizing its impact, and identifying a path toward healing. So my first question, but do you want to get some background on the book first? Or you want
Mm.
to do that after the questions?
Mm. It's a memoir.
Okay.
So there's that. Yeah.
Cool. Give some.
I grew up in poverty and generational trauma, and have been working on this. It was 8 years in production.
Wow.
So I wrote it in 8 months, but I would say that from the time I started writing all the way to now, it's been an 8 year process of researching and
And we've been talking about it for that amount of time, right? We've
about
been
that.
friends for a long time.
We have, I know. Yeah, yeah. So you and I met actually through my blog. I've been blogging for 15 years,
Yes.
Underborn in Providence. So I planted the seed 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me, 14 years to actually get the book published. I published the audio book 2 years ago, and then the book will celebrate its 1 year anniversary in September,
Are
actually.
you serious?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like it's just started this year.
I know. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Impressive. I didn't
mhm,
I didn't know that much time had flown by.
yeah, I know.
Wow.
So yeah,
Mhm.
so it's been a long time coming. It was something I put a lot of thought into, probably too much, but then working full time, right? Like that's a challenge. So I was working
Yes.
um, as a clinical supervisor in Oregon for
Mhm.
10 years, and that was a series of events led to me eventually telling the story, and feeling compelled to tell the story and get it out. So.
Mhm.
Um, I had been training on adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, and ended up in a public speaking role and a training role through my position with the county. And then one thing led to another, and more people kept asking me. I was slowly coming out as a professional with lived experience, which was not something that was talked about a whole lot when you and I were first like in graduate school, right? I mean, this
Mhm.
is a relatively new
Yes.
concept, and I felt really afraid of that. It felt risky. But then I read Marsha Linehan, who's the founder of dialectical behavior therapy and DBT, and she came out with her story in 2011 in an interview with the New York Times. And when I read her story and then eventually went on to read her memoir, I was inspired. I was like, okay, if she can do it, this academic professional, clinical professional, um, can more of us do it? And I think now it's much more normalized, but back then, 10, 15 years
Yeah.
ago, it was like,
Taboo. Mhm.
talk about it,
Right.
you're the, tabula rasa, like the blank slate, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and now that has radically shifted. That paradigm has radically shifted, and it made more and more sense. So as I was like microdosing pieces of myself in trainings on adverse childhood experiences, people would
Mhm.
say to me, they'd call me and say, hey, can you come and talk about what you've been through personally when you come and do your training? And then that led to an interview with a magazine in Bend, kind of telling my story. And then more opportunities came through that. And then I was like, I have to get this book out.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
have a question. How difficult was that to do, to work, talk
mhm.
about your lived in experience, and then to share it, and
Mm.
then going back home to recover from sharing? Disclose it.
Mm. My nervous system took a beating.
Wow.
I had been told my whole life, don't ever tell them where you come from. Do
Mm-hmm.
not. You have a
Mm-hmm.
fancy name. You lived on the vineyard. Just let them assume.
Yeah.
Um, and that was part of kind of sneaky. I felt like I was sneaking my way into this, dominant culture. It was like if they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to come, like I told you, my sister and I say an RW dub, like rich white woman. Like if people want to think that about you, let them,
Mm-hmm.
because it became this shield. And as a result of that, I lived behind this invisible electric fence of chronic anxiety every day, all day, that like somehow all of this stuff from my past was permeating out of me all the time, and that somebody was going to find me out.
Mm.
Um, and so the freedom, right? Like we say, the
Yeah.
truth will set us free. The freedom of being a whole person gave me a peace that I had never known ever.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, deep breaths on that, right?
Yeah. That wasn't on the list.
No, it's not. That's why I say have some questions. Because the more you reveal, I think
Mm,
you reveal great, great pieces of
mhm.
you, of who you are.
Yeah.
And, even in our long term friendship, I'm always learning more
Mhm.
about you.
Yeah.
And I think in the ways that you want me to. Does
Yes.
that mean it's not intentional? It's not, it's purposeful. It's not,
Mhm.
oh, I didn't know that. And, I'm not interviewing you as a
Right.
therapist either. So
Right. Yeah.
good, good.
Mhm.
I'm sorry if I cut you off.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just taking that in. I'm just taking that in.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. I think
Yeah.
you would, while you were speaking, I thought of a double life sometimes. It could feel,
Mhm.
well, this is me. This is the vulnerable part that I had to reveal. Now I
Mhm.
got to go back into a professional environment and wear a mask
Mhm.
for professional reasons to make a living. But
Right.
you have these lived experiences
Mhm.
that you can't share with your clients or anything like that, but you do have the empathy and the
Mhm.
bandwidth to hear and process and again to offer healing.
Yeah, but interestingly, I was self-disclosing very intentionally because we learn about that in school, how to
Yeah.
intentionally
Mm-hmm.
self-disclose. I had been doing that for years.
Mm-hmm.
I remember early in my career at the county saying in a meeting, I felt I had more in common with the people in the waiting room than I did with the people that I was sitting at a
Yeah.
table with. And that was a moment where, I mean, I got this little charge where I was like, oh God, and I started sweating and I was like, should I have said that? Like, me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was a convergence of my role as a supervisor and also an advocate in the community for what
Mm-hmm.
our clients needed, the population that I was serving, and my lived experience. And oftentimes I felt like I was covering the most qualified room in the mouth by silencing myself out of fear. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was actually led by the love that I had for those that I was serving that sort of forced me. I say that God kind of grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and was like, you have to start talking.
Yeah.
And I had long arguments with him about that because I am an introvert and I am a very private person.
Yeah.
You're part of a tight circle that
Mm-hmm.
is very small in terms of like who I share myself with,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's been cultivated over all the years that we've known each other. And so it was an uncomfortable position to find myself in.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. I
Do
didn't
we
want
ever?
to, no, thank you. Pick somebody else and not
Yeah.
me, you know?
I often say God does what he wants, and I do
Mhm.
truly believe he does.
Mhm.
You're not listening to
Totally.
me.
What's
I always question, are you not listening to me? Do you not hear me? I don't
that? Right.
want to. Right. So he knows best. So I'm glad that you are here. Now we
Mhm.
will move into my questions. um, the first one is you write.
Mhm.
It didn't start with me. And
Yeah.
that really challenges the way we often understand trauma. Can you talk about what happens when we begin looking beyond an individual's behavior and ask what happened before you arrived?
Mm.
Particularly when poverty, abuse, addiction, family systems, and even faith are part of that history. And how can understanding our history give us context without becoming an excuse? That's a lot.
Mm. Mm. The micro and the macro.
Okay.
So I call it the cosmic punchline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, right?
Yes.
Everything was perfect, and then something happened.
A
And
lot. Yes.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when I was looking to structure the book, I actually looked first to the Bible. What's the narrative structure of the Bible, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
begins with Genesis. In the beginning, everything was beautiful, and then something happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we can look at our own life, our own family. It begins, we're born, but it didn't begin with us, it begins with our parents.
We're coming into something, being
And
birthed into something.
yeah, that was already here, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're
Yeah.
on a rock floating in a galaxy, and we have a lot of
Boom.
theories about how that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's looking back.
Yeah.
And so once upon a time, I say Cain bonked Abel, and then that person bonked somebody else, and then on and on and on. And you just have this sort of war that's been going on since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that shape the person who raised us? And how did the person who raised them shape them? And on and on and on, all the way back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And so I think it's not, like you said, it's not meant to be an excuse. It's meant to understand,
Right.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so having that understanding is part of what helps us come into forgiveness eventually, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that we can say, okay, I understand why they did what they did. Um, and how can we then, with that awareness, at the moment we realize it in our own lives, make a different choice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I'll often educate with when we're digging into family trauma is don't know the history, but don't romanticize it. Don't make an
Yes.
excuse about it, but
Right.
know what it is. Be factual and
Hmm.
discovery so
Yes.
that you can recover.
Yes. And how our compassion is not complete if it
Hmm.
doesn't include ourselves.
Yes.
So oftentimes we can have so much compassion, so much empathy for a person who hurt us that we become enabling of
Yes.
them.
Hmm.
Enable is to disable, right?
Yes.
So,
Destroy.
so we have accountability, in whatever way that, you know, however that looks in our own lives.
Hmm.
But then we also have choice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. We get to choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to realize. It's hard to
Hmm.
realize that we have choice.
Yeah. And it's very difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because if I can depend on this pain and this way that I was structured and
Hmm.
hurt, and then that goes away, what do I do now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's terrifying. And I say this in the book that it's scary to realize that we have a choice. It's frustrating to realize that
Hmm.
we feel so helpless. I call it the VIP, the very
Hmm.
important persecuted, right? That we find a sense of protection, safety, getting needs met in our suffering. And,
Yes.
and that's part of the training framework that I created, the Resolution Diamond, which is the workbook that I've been working on all summer. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
hmm,
Any dates on when that will be completed?
no.
Okay. All right. We'll
One
move on
weekend,
to question two.
yeah, one weekend at a time.
Yes. And I know you are working very hard on that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am. Hmm.
All right. Two, one of the things that really stayed with me was your description of poverty as trauma. We often talk about resilience as though it's simply something a person possesses, but your story challenges that idea. How can chronic poverty, instability, and lack of safety shape the nervous system, relationships, self worth, and the choices a person believes are available to them? And why is it important that we stop comparing trauma and saying someone else has it worse?
Mm. This is life.
Yeah.
None of us get out alive.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
at all.
Hard. It's hard being
It
human.
is. Yeah.
My clients come to me all the time and they say, I don't have any trauma. What's,
Oh,
so I don't know why I have anxiety. And I'm like, okay. So we dig and we dig and we dig. And I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that?
yes.
Um,
Yes.
and then epigenetics too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that it didn't start with us.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you had a perfect childhood, I'll just say this, the stress and trauma from previous generations can actually live in our cells. So we know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So there's that. But uh, poverty adds a layer of challenge and complexity to healing that has been often overlooked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if, let's say, you come from a family where you have housing and food, but you don't have love, or you have other challenges that you're facing, it still damages the nervous system. But you're not having to also think about, what am I going to eat today? What am I going to wear? Where am I going to sleep? So for those of us that grew up in poverty, it's you're constantly in survival mode. I spent the
Mm-hmm.
first 20 years of my life in survival mode, right? I didn't really land at stability. I always had multiple jobs until I was, I think, 32. So it wasn't, I wasn't able to get a job that, paid all of my expenses until I was about 32. I started working when I was 13. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was working before that, babysitting and things like that, but I got actual working papers when I was 13. So, um, that's exhausting. That, your nervous system takes a beating. I had gone to a naturopath when I got, again, the job in Bend, and she did all these tests, and I was, trying to heal from anemia, iron deficiency anemia, and that's something I've battled on and off throughout my life. Did you intend to mute yourself? You did. Okay. And so,
I did.
okay.
I have
Okay.
someone in the kitchen. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, no worries. Snack time. Um, and she ran all these tests on me. She was lovely. And I remember getting the results back, and she's sitting with me and she's looking at it. And she said, oh, I see. I can see what the problem is here. You're a veteran. And she said it as if she knew that that was facts. And I said, no. And she said, these are the same biomarkers as a multi-toured war veteran.
Mm.
And she looked at it and she goes, what happened to you? So I gave her like this brief elevator speech
You didn't break down in tears?
about
Oh,
my child. I was fine. I was sitting there like, I mean, like, this was not news to me, but I'd never had it validated before in this way.
yeah.
So I give her this elevator speech, like, oh, this, that, and the other. And it was very quick. And she broke down. She started crying. So I was like, it's okay. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm not fine, but I'll be fine. It's like, but it was this moment of, like, irrefutable validation. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not weak. I'm not, making this up. I'm not playing this.
Mm-hmm.
This has had an actual impact on my neurobiology.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I tell my clients all the time, go get a cortisol panel, make your doctor give you a cortisol panel. And they're hard to do, and expensive to come by. I was in a really privileged position at that time to be able to
Mm-hmm.
have access to that level of care. But she had my anemia in remission for 7 years,
Wow.
and no other doctor had been able to do that. And it was by treating me holistically,
Mm-hmm.
and really working on intentional methods for reducing stress, and different supplements in my diet and all that kind of stuff. So there's this layer of poverty or stress, and that adds to the acuity of trauma for people that we are not talking about enough. I had never really heard it talked about until Viola Davis
Mm.
put her memoir out, Finding Me. She's a
Mhm.
brilliant advocate, and we actually she grew up in Central Falls, CF, which was like her apartment, as far as I know, I've guesstimated, it was like a few blocks from one of the apartments that I had lived in. So
Wow.
I read her memoir in like 2 days. I was like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah.
I couldn't love you anymore. So yeah, she's
Yeah.
incredible. So she's spoken out about that,
Hmm.
which I
Yeah. And one thing I do talk about too, and I have, I can have some clients come in, but I want to talk about my trauma, or my curses,
mm-hmm,
generational curses.
mm-hmm,
And I do. I specifically point out I don't believe in generational curses. I believe in generational trauma.
yeah,
There's a difference because I don't believe we are cursed people or
mm-mm,
whatever your faith is. I just don't believe that. But I
mm-hmm,
do believe in generational trauma.
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
So,
The whole, I mean, the curse
yeah.
versus, the epigenetics.
Mhm.
I think I tend to agree with that,
Mhm.
that it's learned behavior, it's dynamics, it's, again, biology. We're these little petri dishes, and then,
Mhm.
experience is the catalyst. So yeah, it's learning whole new ways of thinking and being, which
Yeah.
often comes with a tremendous amount of grief.
Mhm.
That is something that
Yes.
we talk about because, right, like letting go of family is
Mhm.
tribe, right? Like that's
Yes.
to intentionally, consciously separate ourselves from tribe and become something different is
Mhm.
really isolating. The conversations about social mobility, I think, would really benefit from talking about the tremendous amount of grief involved in that process. You're becoming
Mhm.
something completely new, and that comes with a price, you know.
Yes.
And like, yeah, I don't know. It's a big conversation, but
Yeah.
you don't fit anywhere anymore. You can't go back. But like for me personally, I'll just say that like I don't identify with a lot of the culture of my tax bracket, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to say it. It's I didn't feel like I fit in college. I talk about this in the book too. I was petrified in graduate school. You have some weird experiences. Like how many trainings, and I think this comes up a lot in our profession. How many trainings have I taken on culturally competent care and the culture of poverty?
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I taking what? So, in our current role, if I'm allowed to say, I work in similar circles these days.
Yes.
Uh, it was a shift for me, and I remember asking a supervisor who I felt a sense of trust with, very sort of innocently. I had always worked with underserved population, which I consider to be my people, right?
Right.
Now all of a sudden I'm in this role where I'm serving a different portion of the population, and I go to my supervisor and it's like, are there any trainings on um, like dominant culture, like the culture of middle class, I think is how
Yes.
I phrased it, because I said there are references that I don't have enough information about because I don't have lived experience with that.
Mhm.
And so it was like trying to put myself in the shoes of, I've worked for folks like that. I've
Yeah.
cleaned their houses, I've watched their kids, I mowed their lawn, I put up strapping in their garage, I plunged their toilets. I don't know what they're saying when I'm not there. I don't know what I don't understand that dynamic as well.
Mhm.
And to really serve people, you have to know them
Right.
to some degree.
That's
And
good. Yeah.
we don't study that. I mean, I don't remember taking a class on
Mm-mm.
understanding that population, just how to serve them. So that was, I don't know where that fits in the question, but yeah, that's been interesting. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think
It
the
is.
grief, the grief. There's a lot of components to social
Mhm.
disability. And I'll just add too that only between 4 and 17% of the population who are born into deep poverty get out. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of reasons for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think grief and fear are true components of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
lack of resources and education.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
knowing how to navigate privileged culture,
Yes.
dominant
Mm-hmm.
culture. Um, One of the experiences that I actually share, I think, in the book was the first time I went into a Whole Foods
Mm.
when I lived in Florida. I went into a Whole Foods and I remember being anxious about going in, but excited to go
Mm-hmm.
in. And then I was like, wow, this is a mecca. This is incredible. It smells amazing. And the foods and like everything's beautiful. And I couldn't believe that I could afford to go in. And it was like this mental block that like, oh, that's for those kind of people. Like I don't fit in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't belong in there. And I'm like walking around like, are they going to know that like I
Yeah.
don't fit in? I was always waiting in this path up, like for this alarm to go off and be like, trash panda's in the building, like get her out,
Oh
because
my.
that's how I felt inside,
Yeah.
and so nothing like that happened.
No, they never
Um,
will.
no, but then I get in my car and I just started crying. I was like, it's moments like that, where you realize you have a choice, and it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to exercise it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So,
It is.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
All right. 3. This is our final question, unless I
Okay.
come
Yeah.
up with something else. Your story doesn't offer us a fairy tale ending. You survived extraordinary things,
Mhm.
but you don't frame healing as simply becoming resilient and moving on. Thank you.
Mm,
So, for the person listening who recognizes themselves in your story,
mm,
maybe they've survived trauma, poverty, abuse,
mm,
shame, loss, or a complicated relationship with faith. How do they begin identifying what healing actually looks like for them? And what role do therapy, community, advocacy, emotional awareness, and faith play in their journey?
mm. These big questions, sister.
When we talked about this project, it's like, you're going to make me cry. No, I want to know. These are
I
good
know,
questions to
I know,
answer.
I know. Well, I've almost cried like 3 times, but I'm keeping it together. But this
Okay.
one, this one. So I moved across country for the third time in my life,
Yes.
3 years ago.
Hmm.
Be in part to be closer to you,
Closer to me. Yeah.
yeah, closer to my sister, and to have affordable housing.
Yes.
Um, yeah, but one of the things that I loved when I first moved here was the license plate.
Mm,
As I breathe, I hope.
wow.
Hmm. Hmm. So I think that we have this fairy tale narrative
Hmm.
in Western culture that says like one day you arrive and you live happily ever after. And that is not, we're organic beings, right? So the essence of life is change and evolution.
Yes.
And so, as each day comes, we are healing, we are growing, and we don't stop until the day we die.
Hmm.
There is no arrival point. I think we look for dry land for sure. We say like life's lifing, and if it could just life a little less right now so that we can catch our breath and
Oh, the way I wanted to. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that incrementally, each day that we make a different choice and we learn from that choice,
Hmm.
um, I think it shrinks how long it takes us to get, to learn the next lesson. Um,
Hmm.
we're never really done. I think healing is like laundry.
Yes.
There's always more to do. There's always,
Repeat, right?
yeah, but we get better at it.
Yes.
We
Hmm.
get better at it. And so it's, what did I learn?
Hmm.
And what will I choose today?
Yeah.
Right. And
Really
so,
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so sort of doing away with that notion of a finish line. The finish line is death, and maybe not even, right? Like
Yeah,
maybe there's, we're always evolving.
always.
Um, but in terms of advocacy, um, there's so many good things happening. I think it's very important for people to know also that um, we're spiritual toddlers.
Yes.
We just got here, right? Like,
Hmm.
just like, I know it's like we've been around for what, 200,000 years, depending on which, I don't know,
Yeah.
story we believe. But we're spiritual toddlers. Child abuse reporting did not exist in America until 1977. This like the first CPS line, right?
Mm-hmm.
HS didn't exist until 1977. Um, PTSD wasn't a diagnosis until the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
World Health Organization just acknowledged CPTSD as a diagnosis, which essentially is the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're grappling with that. The Adverse Childhood Experiences study, which is now part of a global um, research project, is less than 20 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
90s. Okay. So we're just learning about the brain and the body and how experience affects us and qualifying that for everyone. And so I think putting that into policy is the next sort of exciting venture to say,
Mm-hmm.
how do we cultivate and optimize human resilience? I just wrote a piece about human resilience optimization as the next sort of, I don't know, investment opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I framed it, as kind of a joke. I was being very tongue in cheek,
Okay.
uh, it's there's something called the World Bank Capital Index, which measures population health on a global scale,
Yeah.
looking at different metrics, right? And so we're not doing great as a species, right? And why is that? Looking
Mm-hmm.
at like climate, the quality of our food, and how we work, our education, and then total health scores. And none of them are good. So if people feel like, hey, I think life is hard right now, it is. We're not crazy.
No, we're not
Um,
making it up.
we're
Mm-mm.
not making it up. No, it truly is as hard as it feels. And so I think it's how do we hurry up and implement what neuroscience is teaching us and
Mm-hmm.
put that into systemic practice so that it can actually improve our quality of life on a daily basis, knowing that we have these nervous systems that are begging for rest,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm. Agree
So,
with you.
yeah, if 76% of the global workforce is saying that they are reporting burnout, okay, let's look at that, right? Maybe our current work-life balance is not balancing, right?
There's no
Uh,
such thing, I'd say.
yeah, yeah. And then on the sort of micro level, so
Mm-hmm.
there's the advocacy piece, and that's been a slow boat to change. That was the work that I was doing in Bend, actually,
Yeah.
was implement the sanctuary model of trauma informed care, which is an institution out of New York, and it's the work of Dr. Sandra Bloom and Brian Farger. That was they're the original co-creators of that model, and it's now being implemented internationally in different institutions. And there's also some pending federal policy related to that model. So it's an operational change model that's rooted in optimizing human resilience,
Yeah.
teaching people how to promote health and healing in their schools, in their organizations, in their communities. So that's happening, which is really hopeful. Then there's the neurosequential model, the work of Dr. Bruce Perry. He's teaching, building resilience in children,
Mm-hmm.
which is really exciting. And there was another one that I wanted to mention, and that one's escaping me. The International Resilience Coalition. They're looking at it from a climate change and also social and behavioral uh, change as well. So there's
Mm-hmm.
really exciting things happening,
Yeah.
but then in the day to day, like how do we do that for ourselves? Set boundaries with the world, and I would say have compassion, right?
Yeah.
For ourselves, knowing that it is hard.
Yeah. And I would
Yeah.
add learning your no,
Learning.
cultivating your no, creating your
Yeah.
no. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make you selfish. It's just leaning into what you don't know, but
Yes.
understanding what is trying to understand what is happening in
Mm-hmm.
you, not just
Mm-hmm.
to you. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so trauma healing or the impact of trauma is ever evolving. It is learning things. Even if you know where it came from, you're still the one living with it or trying to live with it and
Mm-hmm.
excusing it or suppressing it or doing something that doesn't feel good for you to get over
Mm-hmm.
is where I think we a lot of us human race lose focus in the meaning of healing with our traumas, not
Mm-hmm.
from our traumas,
Yeah.
um, and even recognizing it as trauma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah,
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Qualifying pain. It has to start with qualifying
yes.
pain.
Mm-hmm.
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 So many people have a hard time with that. It's
Yeah.
the strangest thing. You offer somebody love and they're like, I don't deserve that.
Mm-hmm. Quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been so interesting to me to discover.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I think I've said this to you before. A
Mm.
lot of people don't know what love is. They have no clue.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So unlearning has been a huge word for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unlearning. So I appreciate you breaking down finding our way back to love in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that it's not everything happens for a reason, it's more so what we're born into, what
Mm-hmm.
we experience, and how we process it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just layers to it. It's not easy once you start moving into a healing space, right? And try to carve out sacred spaces
Yes.
and sacred time for that instead of pushing, pushing, pushing,
Mhm.
exercising. And you got on me a lot for years about cortisol levels. She
Yeah.
truly did. I'm just going to work it out.
Yeah. Do less. Do less. Do less.
Yes. I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
know what she means by that. I need to move more. But
No.
it's when I started listening to that. I mean, I heard you, I was listening, but I've been taught that my body has to sweat, it has to move.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was doing those hard exercises and pushing myself, I wasn't losing weight. I thought I was releasing
Mm-hmm.
those things, my stress. But it wasn't until I started being intentional about slowing down, about walking, about breathing, about stretching more than running and jumping on the treadmill and things like that, that stuff started to move.
Yeah.
And when I say move, I wasn't losing a lot of weight, but I felt
Mm-hmm.
better in my body. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I learned my stress levels, what triggers my stress levels,
Yep.
that type of thing. Stress is going to happen, it's a part of
Yes.
life.
Sure.
But learning how to navigate it often takes a lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's the more we know, right? And
Yes.
so
Mm-hmm.
I think the pandemic is when I learned about slowing down,
Mm-hmm.
the value of slowing down, as we all did globally. I think it scared a lot of people to have to
Yes.
slow down. But that was, I used to push my, and this is a whole other can of
Yeah.
worms, but like I used to really push myself running for years. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, please stop, please stop. And I actually discovered the going slow was, you got to slow down to speed up. That was a
Mm-hmm.
game changer. So as soon as I learned it, I told you, I was like, sister, we got to, this is the whole thing. Like, especially in perimenopause, like walking and yoga,
Yes.
sleep more. And that's the pathway.
Yes.
So yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
We're going to lead. I want not necessarily end with this because we're going to do another series on this, but leave us with what do you think is misunderstood about trauma? That'll be my
Mm.
final question. Final
People
question.
are so afraid of that word.
Yeah.
It's such a buzzword and it's such a trigger. I think that People have it in their heads that trauma has to be this like lifetime made for TV movie.
Mhm.
Cops show up and there's explosions and like violence, and that it has to be that.
Mhm.
And so I refine the definition by saying trauma is anything that separates us from feeling safe and loved and good.
Yes.
That's it. If it hurt you, then it was traumatic. And we can understand that internally
Mhm.
through those biometrics, but we don't always have access to that lab report, right?
Mhm.
So trauma is anything that separates us from feeling safe and loved and good. And healing or medicine is anything that restores us to love.
Yes. It's an
That's
assist.
that's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
If it activates your nervous system, then it was traumatic.
Mhm.
And it's often, sometimes it's the things that happened to us. Yes, a volcano erupted over my childhood. Hooray, hurrah. But sometimes it's the things that don't happen for us,
Yeah.
right? The
Mhm.
love that we didn't receive, the care that we didn't receive, um, that can break our heart. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And just one experience that really that pushed me into helping or being a therapist
Mm,
to women of color, to Black women, is really an example of a client this years ago when I was
mm,
a babe and being a therapist was um, she described her sexual trauma as it wasn't rape,
mm,
and that just
mhm,
hurt me to my heart to where we really will minimize
mhm,
something so horrific
mhm.
and to it's all right.
Yep. Mhm.
And
And
this
it's
no, it's not.
mm-mm.
This is in therapy,
Yes.
right?
Mhm,
So um I love the definition of trauma. It is
mhm.
your definition of trauma. It is simply that.
Yes.
But we will take it and minimize it and shove it. And I don't want to talk about it. It wasn't that bad.
Mhm,
But your whole
mhm,
life has shifted
mhm,
completely.
mhm.
Um, so
Well, we
finding our way back
internalize
to
it.
love.
What's that?
I said, so finding our way back to love. And
Finding our
it's
way
not,
back to love.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I think we do that, in, these one-on-one conversations, I think, but I
Hmm.
think also collectively changing the narrative, right?
Yes,
Um, because the what's sometimes called grape or gray area rape is rape, right?
yes,
Um,
yes.
and unfortunately or fortunately, that's also in the book.
Hmm.
And so um, I think we've learned to, yeah, like it's the bootstrap mentality, like you said in the
Yes.
question. Like we've heard it for years, for generations. Like it's
Hmm.
not that bad, and I had, it was harder for me, or what are you crying about? This, that, or the other, and we minimize people's
Hmm.
suffering, our own
Hmm.
suffering, because the previous generation didn't have their pain qualified, and so they passed that down, and then that
Hmm.
becomes part of the collective, right?
Hmm.
And so one of the other sort of systemic things that I advocate for is trauma informed journalism.
Yes.
Imagine if Buddha or Jesus told the news, right? The
Hmm.
way that we tell the news now is just re-traumatizing. It's
That's
activating.
it. It sure is.
It's shaming people. It's blaming people. And so how do we create systems, larger systems that retell, restructure the story of
Hmm.
experience,
Yeah.
right? In
Hmm.
a way that invites compassion, because that's one of the pathways back to how we love ourselves, right?
Hmm.
So individually on the micro level, and then collectively on the
Yes.
macro. Hmm.
Yes. All right.
Hmm.
How do
Okay.
you want to end this segment? And
Mhm.
we'll meet again to go over the next segment of this. I think it's going to take digging deeper into your stories.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Okay with that?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I would love that. How do we end for today?
Yes.
I don't know.
Did you find your quote? Do you
A
want to do
quote?
a
No, I
quote?
didn't find the quote. That was,
Okay.
well, it was, I mean, it's off the top of my head, but how do we claim responsibility for a shattered collective,
Mm-hmm.
fragment at a time, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was,
Yeah,
piece.
and I think we've hit the hot spots. We wanted to talk about the impact of trauma and
Mhm.
then how to get us on a journey of healing.
Mm.
And that's a continuous work, like you said, bit by bit, uh,
Mhm.
taking those moments, trying
Mhm.
to figure it out
Mhm.
without minimizing or suppressing ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
have so many quotes that could just pop off my head, but I don't have one right now.
No, it's okay.
You know, healing is necessary, healing
Yeah.
is required.
Mhm.
Um, Finding your tribe,
Mhm.
finding your support system
Mhm.
um, is an ever evolving thing as well. So I love us. I love our friendship.
Mhm.
But I think it's really great that there's a meeting of the minds too,
Mhm.
um, which
Mm.
is which is love. It is loving. I'm about to cry now, but
Mm. Mhm.
how do
I held it
you
together.
view
I
it?
held it together. No, I think what is healing, I think it was your mourning. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's, horses and sunshine and berries, I think,
Yes.
and the patience that you graced me with because Charlie threw up this morning.
Yeah. And where is he? You got him locked up? He's
Yeah, he's out
okay.
there. I was like, don't come in here in case he gets sick again. He's fine.
Good.
He's
Good.
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 For those who don't know, Charlie is my dog, but my fur kid. But
Or
but
a
yeah,
horse. He's
yeah,
huge.
he's a horse. He is. But yeah, so I think it's one loving choice at a time, right?
Yes.
Loving
Good.
choice at a time.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We will have more to come. We'll get that taken care of. And again, let's always circle back.
Mm-hmm.
All right.